So good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thursday Night Yoga Therapy. And tonight we are moving into the second chakra area, the area of hips, reproduction, creativity, emotions, and as a sub-theme, we'll be working with emotional balance and balance generally. Sound good? So let's get started. Lying on your back. This is our supine class, and I'm using a mat tonight because it just makes it a little easier to do some of those bridge poses I find with it. I'll move off occasionally. So just finding your spot. I'm just going to start by putting my feet on the wall just to ground, and just breathing. Inhale, expand the belly. Exhale, draw the belly in. Now you do this with bent knees, and I'd suggest that everyone have a bolster or a big pillow tonight. We're going to start with just our block, could be a smaller pillow. So as you exhale, I want you to hug the block in. As you exhale, and then inhale, release. And exhale, contract from the pelvic floor to the belly button. Just notice how the pelvis moves, the lowest part of the lower back, and then the hips, those two parts. Inhale. So we engage those adductors. Again, you could do this with straight legs if you prefer. This just helps us get more into the hips. I want you to feel the difference. This time I want you to breathe from the belly button down to the feet. So just change your bhavana, your focus, the attitude with which you practice. So exhale, belly button in, lower belly, pelvic floor, squeeze the thighs, feel the feet. Now there's a lot of exhaling. You can do that faster in your own time. Inhale, and then exhale from the belly button down to the feet. Feel how that changes the movement of the pelvis when you breathe down versus pelvic floor up. It's a little different. So I want you to pick one of those. You can pick either one. From the pelvic floor to the belly button, that's a bit more classical. And belly button down, that's working with this downward flow of energy called apana vayu. So you might like that energetically. As we do this, we're going to add a humming sound. You can add a hold after exhale if you like. Continue that squeeze and then inhale. It's called brahmaring. It's very soothing for the nervous system. I have to say, I really like working with this downward flow of energy from the belly button down to the feet. If I'm trying to ground and let go of anything. I'm holding after exhale, just one more. You can straighten the legs or keep the legs bent again if you want to focus a bit more on the hips. Inhale, arms coming up overhead. Just getting into neck and shoulders. And exhale, coming down. You always have a little pillow under your head. If you've got a hoodie like I have today, that's actually a nice little cushion for your head. And as you exhale, just squeezing that block or pillow. Inhale, releasing. If you can, inhale into the chest, then into the belly. Exhale, belly draws in and chest relaxes. And you can do breathing down to the feet or pelvic floor up, which is more classical, up towards the chest. Then you can focus on just inhaling, expanding the belly, exhale, contracting if all of this is feeling too confusing. Now we're preparing to bridge, so let's see if we can add that exhale, pelvic floor to belly button, and see how the hips lift off a little bit as you do that. Inhale, the chest expands, the lower back arches away from the floor, and exhale, if you contract from the pelvic floor to the belly button, you'll actually feel your back round a little bit and the hips come off the ground. See if you can feel that pelvic tilt as you inhale. Pelvis rotating forward, and as you exhale, the pelvis, the top of the pelvis rotating back, tail tucking under. It's interesting to feel that. One more. You can exaggerate that tilt if that is good for your hips and back. Some people that is good, some people not so good. All right, just take a moment. Now we're going to add a lift of the hips. Okay, we're going to start with just that pelvic tilt. So we're actually going to lift on exhale. So inhale in the position. We're going to exhale, contract from the pelvic floor up, and you're going to lift the hips. You're going to inhale here. And exhale, roll down. And release. So we're going to move only on exhale. Inhale here. Back arches. Exhale. Pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in, the tail's tucking under, and then lift the hips. So we're focusing just on the waist down. The chest is not moving yet. And then inhale here. And exhale, just rolling down. Fairly neutral spine. Let's try that again. Inhale. And exhale, lifting up. Squeezing the block. Inhale, stay here. And when you inhale and stay, you might add the chest into it and come a little higher. Now you're in real bridge. And exhale, rolling down. Let's try that again. Inhale, stay. Back arches. Exhale. Pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in, lifting just the hips off. Now inhale, stay here, lift higher, breathe into the chest, then into the belly, lift higher if you can. Exhale, rolling down. Last time, inhale here. Exhale, pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in as you lift the hips up, chest stays stable. Inhale, lift into the chest, breathe into the chest, then into the belly. And exhale, roll down. Now we're just going to come up into bridge on an inhale, regular way we do it. And you're going to stay here. I want you to roll the shoulders underneath and stay. Every time you exhale, squeeze that block. Every time you inhale, try to lift a little bit higher. So you're using those glutes. They tend to not engage, so you kind of poke them. Wake up. And exhale, squeeze to the center. Inhale, lift higher. Breathe into the chest. Breathe into the belly. Exhale, pelvic floor to belly button. Squeeze that block. Inhale, lift higher. Release the block a little bit as you lift higher. Exhale, squeeze. And last time, we're going to come down after this. Inhale. And exhale, coming down. And notice how you feel. So let's just do some windshield wipers side to side. A little more space, so I can move off my mat so you can see me well, and you might need to move as well. So inhale here and exhale. I think I need a rug. So if you have a rug to work with, this class would be great with a rug and a little tiny mat on top. This is where you need that traction. Inhale, center, exhale, other side. So we're using this as a counter pose to the bridge. Just working those hips one side at a time. Now, some of you wanted to work on upper back, neck, and shoulders. So I'm going to invite you to add a little twist of the upper back. If you want, you might need a pillow under your head. A bed pillow is wonderful for this. I used that the other day with one of my clients in person. A full bed pillow is a really good prop for this pose. You can also slide your arms overhead. Make sure you have room again. Rolling into the shoulders. So this is adding an upper back theme as well as hip. Stretching the back of the shoulders. Posterior deltoids tight. And moving the glutes, the lower back, into the whole body. I use this pose a lot for the upper back, but it's also wonderful for the lower back and the hips. And when you feel complete, just finishing up. And we're going to move into some more rotation work. So again, you'll need quite a bit of room. So just have as much room as you can to move your legs. Inhale, center, exhale. We're going to bring one knee in at a time, just starting with that. Okay, and this one actually, I think I'm going to do on my mat. So I'm going to show you variations. It's nice to have a mat under you. So exhale, bring one knee towards the big toe of the other foot. Inhale, center. The arms can be in a T position, overhead, by your sides. Keep that other knee up. This one's great for thighs that are tight. And what I've been learning is the thighs often get tight when the hips actually, those stabilizing aspect of the hips, the deep 6 hip stabilizers, lateral hips. When those are weak and tight, and the core is weak, and possibly too tight as well, the pelvic floor. The thighs, the quads can actually get very tight and they can work too hard. You can be moving around the world using your quads more than your hip muscles. So tonight we're going to try to balance that all out. First, we're going to stretch those quads in case they've been working hard and you're walking and moving around the world. Now, if it feels good, you can stay on one side and just breathe there. And if some of you want more of a challenge, you can bring one foot a little closer to your glute. Be careful, this can be very hard on the knee. So this is moving towards a classical pose. Supta Virasana, Ekapada, one-footed version. And I've got my hand up under the other glute. Otherwise, just stay with your foot out to the side as we had earlier in that scissor movement. And you can also have the top knee down. This is my personal favorite way of stretching the hip. The quad. That makes sense. And that ankle can be, that right ankle can be anywhere. Be ready coming out of that. Release that right or left foot. Again, you can just do this regular windshield wiper style. We're going to do the other side. So first variation is just very simple, the scissor movement. I've got my left knee coming to my right big toe, or you might be doing the opposite side. If I want to go towards the classical Virasana pose, I'm going to come up, tuck that left foot beside my left hip, come down. Again, you need a fair amount of flexibility to do this, and your right hand under the right hip. So be careful, because this can be very hard on the knee, okay? And then bringing that left arm overhead. You can also open up that right knee, okay? So be careful. I don't always teach this because it can be a little bit challenging, but some of you I know in the class are ready for this, so I'm giving this as an option. And breathe here. So my left foot is beside my left glute. Supta Virasana looks like this. This is a classical pose, Ekapada, one-footed Supta Virasana, Supine Virasana, Hero's pose. There, couldn't remember the translation. This is also actually used in Iyengar yoga for constipation, working on stretching the colon one side at a time, kind of interesting. It's done lying on a bolster often with both legs, because that's a big arch for the back, pretty hard to do. When you're ready, coming out, and release those legs. A little bit tight, so let's go into those legs. Inhale, bring those legs up. Exhale, bend the knees into the chest. Just very simple. We want to make the counter a lot easier than the main pose after, especially doing a hard pose like that one, if you did the full thing. And exhale, keep that going. Now, if you want to add a little core work, inhale, legs up. Exhale, touch your toes down in front of you and drag them in at the end of the exhale. Inhale, legs up. Exhale, touch your toes down in front. Drag them in at the end of the exhale. Hold after exhale. Inhale up. Urdhva Prasrita Padasana combined with a variation of Apanasana. And this sure feels good after having been at my desk most of the day. I have to say, it's like, oh, wow, my legs are swollen having sat at a desk all day. So if you have a similar experience, I did get out for one walk talk meeting, which I highly recommend if you are working remotely at all. Get out and walk, but still so good for the legs to invert after standing all day or sitting. Okay, let's just leave our legs up to the sky for a minute, hands up to the sky. This is lymphatic drainage. If this is stressing your hip flexors, because of tightness or weakness, you can put your legs at a wall or on a chair. You might get some shaking happening. Don't worry, that can be normal. A release of sorts for your nervous system. And when you're ready, hug your knees in, just stay here a moment. Two parts of the pose, Urdhva Prasrita Padasana and Apanasana. Stay. Okay, let's keep going with those twists. So we'll need more room for this one. So we're going to go from the windshield wipers first, side to side. Inhale, center, exhale, side. If that feels good and you feel like taking it up a notch, we're going to try something else. So you're going to cross your left leg over your right. You're going to inhale here and then exhale, just moving side to side and just seeing whether you can get a little bit deeper into the hip area. And this will go more into the lower back as well as we move a little higher. It's definitely going to start working the lower back. You're also probably feeling a stretch in the opposite shoulder. So this is definitely working with our sub-theme today, neck and shoulders. And you can turn your head the opposite direction if you like. Your shoulder comes slightly off, don't worry. As long as it's not uncomfortable, you can play with bringing the palm down opposite way of your knees. So knees left, for example, right palm down, looking right. Inhale, center, exhale, knees right, looking to the left, left palm down. And when you're ready, coming to the center, you might get a crack in your back. I just had one. So that can feel like a release. Inhale, center, exhale, going to your left and then your right. Just noticing where you feel this in your hips, lower back. You can add on that turn of the head, turn of the palm, opposite way to the knees. doing 6 to 8 rounds according to your breath pattern. And when you feel complete, just finishing up. Might just take a break by stretching your legs long. Just taking a wee break. I always like to put my feet at the wall to align my hips and my back. Notice any sensation that one leg is longer than the other, and you might be feeling that the side that normally feels a bit short, like one hip is up, it might actually feel quite long right now after that work. So just notice that. So we're going to move on from what we were just doing, that twist with the legs crossed. We're going to do a panasana with the legs crossed. So I'm going to use a block, or you can use a pillow under the lower back, and the top of the block or pillow no higher than your waist is what I find works, but adjust it to comfort. It's not an exact rule. I'm going to cross my right leg first just so you can see, but classically we would do left. And bring your knees towards your chest. This is getting into piriformis. So if you can cross your knees rather than the figure four, it's a little bit different. I find it doesn't take it into the knee as much. The figure four is great, but for a lot of people that gets into the knee, which is not ideal. So find this a little safer, and then holding anywhere on the legs that you can. So you can hold just the shins. You should be feeling a stretch on that bottom hip on the outside of the piriformis area, which in many people is tight. So exhale in and inhale away. Just keep that going. Some of you might like to hold the bottoms of your feet and bring your legs a bit more to the side. I heard a young yoga teacher call this whale pose. I don't think it looks like the tail of a whale. So whale tail, maybe. It actually does kind of look like that. It's a variation of Gamukhasana. It's a classical seated pose, cow face pose, where you sit in this position with your knees crossed. Or a variation of a Panasana, you could say. Just see which version feels best for your hips, where you'd like to hold your legs, your feet. Maybe staying in the end of the pose position or keep it moving. Just experiment with where you hold. Get rid of that block if you don't have a lot of sway in your lower back. If you do, the block will help you get your knees towards your chest. When you're ready, you can switch sides. Exhale, drawing in. This is targeting the other hip. So the leg that's on top, for me it's my left. And you might hold on a different place on each side. a bit different than the figure 4 stretch, but if you prefer that, you can certainly do that and crossing the knees. Just a little bit different pose. Inhale, knees away, exhale, knees towards you. When you feel ready, you can stay in the pose. Or keep it moving. And just coming out. Inhale, legs to the sky. Just stay there if that's comfortable. Maybe bring the hands up too and just rest here. This is starting to look more like Viparita Karani, which is an inversion. We're going to go more deeply into that with the bolster next week. I don't know if we'll get to the bolster today. You just rest here, just rest the breath. Just let that blood flow from your feet, down your legs, back to your heart. Just encouraging that venous blood return. You can get cooled in the legs when standing too much or even sitting. Or just lymphatic drainage. The wastes of the body. Ready, bring your knees to your chest. Upon asana, just stay here for a few breaths. Just doing a meditative breath. Observing the natural rise and fall of the breath. Finishing up. We're going to work towards that figure 4 movement. Before we do that, we're going to do Ekapada Supta Baddha Konasana. Okay, Supta Baddha Konasana looks like this. A lot of you will know this pose. Problems with this pose, you've got one hip tighter than the other and it's kind of lopsiding you. So you can take blocks, put a block under each side, or I'm going to use my bolster actually. So I don't seem to have 2 blocks that are the same today, so I'm going to use a bolster. You could use a bed pillow and just open your hips like that. Okay. So we're going to come to that in a moment, but in the meantime, I'm going to work on one side at a time. You don't need a block for this unless you want one. So you're going to inhale, bring same arm as leg open. So I'm opening my right hip and I'm bringing my right arm up overhead. And exhale, and coming back to the center, pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in, engaging that core work as you do this. Other side, inhale, left hip opening. The wonderful thing about this, if you've got one hip tighter than the other, you can access usually more rotation by doing one at a time, which is really interesting. And I have to say, I don't understand mechanically exactly how that works, but it's a very interesting thing to experience. Especially you have one hip that just won't open as much as the other. You might be able to do it in this pose. Just do that side to side. It should be very soothing to your nervous system. As you exhale, pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in, chest falls. Feel your core engage as you do that exhale. Inhale from the chest down to the belly. Ujjayi pranayama, constricting the throat, breathing through the nose if you can. And just finishing up your last round before we move into both hips. When we move into both hips, you can add that bolster if you want, or a block under each knee, usually the hard brick type blocks, or the soft ones, or two pillows or books the same size. That's a little harder to find, but you might have two cushions from your couch, for example, that are the same size. All right, when you're ready, you're going to inhale, open the hips and bring your arms overhead. And exhale, draw them together. Inhale, opening. Exhale, drawing them together, adding the arms overhead. Of course, is working the neck and shoulders more. Now, if you like, add a breath or two at the top in that opening position. Supta Baddha Konasana. As you exhale, can you bring your lower back to the ground and feel the movement of your hips as you bring the lower back to the ground? Inhale, arch the back, feel the movement of the hips, lower back away from the floor. Exhale, pelvic floor to belly button as you bring your hands down and close your knees. And your core zips up from the pelvic floor to the belly button. Inhale, breathe from the chest to the belly. Arch the back. Chin comes in if it's comfortable. Exhale, stay here. Feel the pelvis root to the ground. We worked on this earlier. Feel that tilt in the pelvis as you exhale. Inhale, feel the tilt the other direction. The lower back moves away from the floor. Exhale, pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in. As you draw the knees together, you might be shaking if you're activating that core. Keep this going your own timing. You can stay a bit longer if you like. I'm not going to guide this. Have a good time. I can see a lot of you are doing your own timing already. Wonderful. Just keep feeling that movement of the pelvis. You know, this is very good for the hips. I don't know how you feel, but it feels very soothing to me. And my teacher in India actually gave this in my most recent practice for my hips, this breath stay. Notice this wonderful movement of the hips just from working with the breath. Just finishing up. Okay. If you haven't already added that bolster or pillow, I'm going to get you to put it underneath your knees and your hips and just stay. This is a restorative pose. It's very gentle. You're just hanging out here. So you shouldn't feel too much going on. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to rest here. You're going to bring your arms overhead or by your sides, whatever feels better for your body. Just breathe here. Just work on some nice deep pranayama. As you breathe, can you feel that movement of the pelvis? Inhale from the chest to the belly. Exhale from the belly to the chest and start with the pelvic floor. If you like, add a hold after exhale. Feel the tail tucked under. Doing that hold after exhale. Movement of the hips. Movement of the lower back. Lengthening your breath maybe a little bit, a couple of seconds per inhale, per exhale. Maybe your hold after exhale even. Just finishing up. Bring your arms down. We're ready. Knees together. Move your bolster, your pillow, whatever you have under your legs. And just as a counter, let's do the scissor movement. So inhale, your feet are nice and wide as your mat. Exhale, one knee coming down, the other stays up. Working with that internal rotation just as a counter. Inhale, center, exhale, other side. Reaching that knee towards your big toe. Getting into the quad, the psoas. The inner thigh. Ready, we're going to move into that figure 4 movement. So you can do this a whole bunch of different ways. You can cross one ankle over the other thigh and just stay here, or as you exhale, bring the knee towards your shoulder. So I'm holding my right knee with my left hand, and then inhale, open. Exhale, cross, and turn. Or you can bring that leg towards you like a asana. Or you can come to the wall. You put a block under the pelvis for any of these versions. And this is from Iyengar Yoga, and you just stay here and you open the hip. Try not to shift the pelvis, a tendency to twist the pelvis, so be careful. So I taught this with a block under the hips for years until one of my students said, oh, you just root that foot down. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. It actually does work if you really press the other leg foot to the wall. So whatever version you want, you can combine that moving version with the wall actually. That moving version is from Chennai. My teacher, Sridhar, pretty sure created that. He gave it to me when I had a lot of hip pain at one point. And it's quite effective. Use it for hip replacements. You can do it in a chair. It's very gentle. It's working that outside of the hip and then the inside. Let's switch sides, whatever version you're doing. I'm doing that wall version. And I'm doing the movement, especially on my tight side. This is extremely helpful because I can actually get a bit of external rotation, which is really hard for me on this side. So if you have a really tight hip, this can be kind of nice to just open that hip and press down, and then exhale, bring it across. So grand finale. I find this a little harder than other stuff we've been doing, or not. For those of you who know Jana Shirshasana, you could do that at this point. Okay, that classical seated pose. In this wall version, really press the foot on the wall into the wall as you open so your pelvis doesn't twist. Just finishing up. If you are at the wall, you can just bring your legs to the wall, otherwise legs to the sky as we did earlier. Just rest there, rest those legs. A few breaths. Bring the legs to the sky as well. And you could bring the hands to the sky. All right, for our closing meditation, if you want to do this lying on your back, you're welcome. And you want to do it in Supta Baddha Konasana, you should be very ready. If you want to add a chest opener, this pose in restorative yoga is certainly done with a bolster often. And you can add a belt around your waist, but I'm not going to show that today. It's going to take a bit of time, but you could sit on the floor bring that bolster against your buttocks and lie down and adjust the bolster until it matches the length of your spine. And just hang out here. In this pose, I would recommend, fortunately, I don't seem to have two blocks the same size, but I'll just show you a version of this with not perfectly the two blocks, one under each knee. Okay, so feel free to do that or sit with me if you feel like sitting. And I'm going to test out where my hips are at after that. I sit cross-legged with comfort. Hopefully a bit more comfort than I could an hour ago. All right, I think most of you are lying down. It's one of those days. So just pick your pose. You have about 5 minutes left. Just going to bring in the water element. So if you're lying there, you can imagine that you are lying in a warm river of water flowing down from the top of your head down your front, side, back body, all the way to your feet. I often visualize and feel warm river rocks beneath me. Inhale up the back body, those warm river rocks, and exhale down the front body from the head down to the feet. So bring that in. If you're seated, you can imagine that you are sitting in a beautiful warm waterfall. You might have those warm rocks at your base or something else. You might work with a mantra. Inhale Om, exhale Namo. Or English, I. Inhale, exhale, let go. Simply let. Inhale, go, exhale. Observing natural rise and fall of breath. You're lying there. You can continue to lie there as we close. Stay seated with me. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace. Stay. Namaskaram.